What's up, Investor Nation? We have a special guest here today, iFund City's new CTO, Scott Hastings. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad
Uh,
to be here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Scott's been a long-term friend of mine, ski buddy. Basically learned how to ski from Scott. So before that, I had two left feet, and but he hazed me over the last couple of years. So we're excited to have him on board. So today, Scott, I thought what we would do is maybe give a little bit of color background of yourself, and then maybe we could talk about kind of the world changing in technology and how it's going to affect and impact the lending
Yeah,
community.
100%. Yeah, so I've been building, software for over 3 decades now. It's been quite a long time. Started off very, very low level embedded. So I was doing like display drivers for cell phones and crazy stuff like that. Ever since then, I've been working my way up the stack. And really for the last 20 years, everywhere I've worked, my primary role has been software architect. Just basically taking complex business needs, decomposing them into the different systems that, can handle that, interfaces, data architectures, kind of all that. And then within that 20 years, obviously we've seen incredible changes with the cloud and whatnot. So I kind of went from distributed systems on, on-prem servers and stuff like that into the cloud. And then into what I would consider cloud native, which is where you're actually, you're not just renting servers in the cloud, you're actually, using containers and platform as a service type stuff and sort of building for the cloud and the unique context there. So yeah, that's been my world for the past, I think a little bit over 10 years is cloud native distributed systems. I've worked across all the major clouds and, from a domain perspective, I've worked everywhere. Yeah, it's silly to even list them, but I've worked in just about every industry at this point. So I have a very good feel for patterns, what works, what doesn't,
Yep.
general approaches. Yeah, and then we can probably get into a little bit more, but the last 2 years with the rise of AI, it's sort of a whole new context. And
Yes, let's talk about that, right? Mortgage business, a lot of stakeholders, right? You got institutional investors, money managers, you got the borrower, you have the ops team, marketing team, the sales team. A lot of these different entities have to interface with one another.
Yep.
There's some complexity in there, right? Of pushing and pulling data. How do you see AI and ISC using AI and those platforms to transform the business in 26?
Yeah, no, it's a wild time, and I've been absolutely engrossed in the space for a little bit over 2 years now. Just really trying to make sense of the tools and the capabilities, but then also like mapping them to how do we build software better, more quickly, deliver business value more quickly. From my perspective, I think the world changed around Thanksgiving of last year, like with the introduction of the new. It was Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.5 model. When that hit the market, that was really a step change from a software development perspective. Like it kind of went from like, okay, this kind of helps, but I don't know if I'm really saving time because I have to keep such a close eye on it.
Yep.
To like, okay, this is actually like generally pretty good software. That said, you still have to be very, very careful with this stuff. And I think that's where like translating it to the IFC context, like quite clearly, we are in a very, a very high stakes world, right? With
Fragile.
with money and just all of that stuff, we need to get it right. And so now it's the focus, and you're starting to see this around the industry when people talk about like vibe coding versus agentic engineering, right? Vibe coding is just like Claude build me an app, right? Very
I do, guys. I do vibe coding and get yelled at on a consistent basis.
just kind of hoping for the best, taking whatever it gives you sort of stuff. That is still there are times when it's fine if you're just building a prototype or whatever. But if you're trying to build proper systems, like production quality systems, that's still a recipe for disaster. It might look good at first glance, but there are for sure issues. And so, but this is where this whole notion of agentic engineering comes into play is now with these advanced models and now it's not just Anthropic, like all of the leading frontier companies have, good enough models for agentic engineering. Now it's much more about, how do you provide the right context, the right guardrails, the right oversight to these models such that you can take advantage of those innate capabilities and let them run, but not expose yourself to the sorts of risks and whatnot that are associated with vibe coding. So it's been for me, like joining IFC, one of the coolest things about this is we're just getting started on our cloud native portfolio,
Yep.
right? So we have our legacy systems that run the business. They are what they are, but like we're moving into this cloud native world. But for the most part, we're able to build those systems from the ground up for agentic engineering, which is there's just a lot that you do there that historically you haven't done, but can make a huge difference. So really making sure that your agents have everything they need within one well-defined workspace. Keeping your specifications and all the supporting documents, again, in places where it's easy for the agents to access them or even maintain that documentation, making sure you have the right tools that the agents can use throughout the development process, right? So are they able to push PRs, right? Are they able to actually run and test the applications without, you having to go do it for them? There's just a lot of things that you can do now that I think people are just sort of just starting to figure out like, oh, I need to do this. And I feel like we're honestly like a decent amount ahead of the curve there in terms of building for this new world.
Yeah, I think it's great. So summarizing for our audience, right, which tends to be the borrowers, that's going to mean less friction on the portal, how you transmit your information back and forth from a lender to yourself. It's going to be less friction potentially on the draw process, more controls around loan docs, more controls around pricing transparency, faster pricing, credit models. So all this is in kind of our dev roadmap. And one of the reasons I'm so excited outside of Scott being wicked smart is he built our dev environment. And so by having a good foundation, it'll allow us to rapidly improve functional areas over the next 6 to 9 months as the industry transforms into more of a fintech commodity-based lending product versus kind of traditional mortgages versus, what we have now, which is, legacy systems that are antiquated and more of a mom and pop tech stack.
Yep.
So what else would you tell the borrowers about tech that they should be worried about? And then we'll let you go.
That they that they should be worried about on their side. Um,
We're looking forward to, right? I mean, or positives and maybe give them some pros and cons.
Yeah, no, for sure. Again, I would go back and kind of just reemphasize like, AI is incredibly powerful, but it's also incredibly dangerous, even still, right? And I think at some level, it doesn't matter how good the models are. Like you need to have ways of overseeing the results. This is where we put a lot of thought into the platform. So, our applications, we use least privilege security across the board. So no matter where you are in our system, you can only do exactly what you need to be able to do for that business function.
Yep.
So that if someone, and this could be a human, it could be AI, whatever, like accidentally or otherwise tries to do something else, it's not a case of like, oh, well, Claude did this, we need to go figure out how to undo the damage. It's no, Claude tried to do this and was shut down by the security boundaries that we've established. So it's just, I think of it as just this layered approach. You have to have the guardrails, you have to have the oversight. And then of course, to start it all, you have to have really, really good documentation. I spend 80% of my time plus on specs.
Yep.
On just making sure that the context is right, that all the details are worked out in the specification, before I let, an agent write a single line of code or I write a single line of code.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great advice. And I think most of the borrowers, if you're anything like me, where you're like, I want to vibe code, AI is going to change my business, I can fire everybody tomorrow. Like none of that actually exists. And you'd be wise to find someone who understands the data architecture, the compliance and controls that need to be around an AI to truly deploy it. Because without that, I think there could be major challenges. It could be cataclysmic, right, for people. So, well, Scott, appreciate you joining. I'm sure we're going to have you back on board as we continue to roll out more products and AI continues to move fast. So we'll be, giving the community some good tech knowledge over the next couple months.
Yes. Yeah. I'm happy to be here. Super stoked to really change the landscape at IFC. And we're going to put out some awesome stuff.
And we gave him a proper welcome to Philadelphia. We're going to take him to the saloon tonight. We got him to Creed's. And so, yeah, it's been a good time, man.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.